Hi, hot listeners. Welcome to episode 41 of Husband and Wife Talks. Today we'll talk about a recent TV show and movie that we've watched and really enjoyed. And then we'll talk more about libraries, books, Kindles, and just reading in general. Stay tuned. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Marta. How's it going?
Great. Let's get started. Woo!
I guess we'll get started. This episode is going to be released on July 9th. We're currently recording it on a Saturday. Again, consistent habits, 2 weeks in a row.
Wow.
I'm happy about it. How are you doing this fine Saturday?
Never been better.
You don't
4-day weekend. Loving it.
Oh, yeah. Happy Independence Day. Well, it's going to be way past 4th of July when this is finally released, but, you know, we're still have to say it. We're proud Americans.
Yeah, happy B-Day, America. You're old now.
If you're in your hot feed, you should should also see the interview episode I did with Marta about her most recent blog. It is out right now as we speak. And she did a launch post, Life Changes, and it was very good post, so you should check it out. How do you feel about it now that it's launched? I know you were a little nervous on that day.
Feel fine.
Feel fine? Wow, so nonchalant.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll get your energy up throughout this podcast so we can get the energy out to all the people. So they're excited.
Of course they're excited. They should be excited. We have a good episode. I think it'll be good anyway.
Not to toot our own horns, but I guess we'll get started on what exactly we've been up to. I don't think we mentioned this last week, but we went to go see Toy Story 4. I didn't even realize it was out. Did we mention this last week?
I don't remember talking about it.
Yeah, neither do I. I think we talked about it right before recording, because I mentioned that through the hiatus, we recommended the Toy Story 4 trailer, and then when we came back, we actually saw Toy Story 4, which I thought was...
Circle of life.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Don't worry, hot listeners. I think we'll get to the point where Marta talks for a little bit longer than a few.
Marta's talking is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Anyway, watch Toy Story 4.
You just feel a little worn down. You worked out today?
I worked out, and then we went outside for a while, so your girl's a little tired. You know what I'm saying?
So we just got to, maybe throughout this, all the excitement about our discussion topic, you'll get hyped.
I think I'll be an appropriate amount of excited. I don't want to be overexcited, and because then people will have no leveling point of what my excitement looks like and what my normal tone is, because I'll just be excited the whole time. And they won't know when I'm truly excited. I can't truly be excited for an hour of talking.
What? You can't be excited to talk to me for an hour?
I don't think so. It's
wow.
Tough.
You know I'm always excited to talk to you.
I'm kidding. Oh, my goodness. Anyway.
My most excited part of the day throughout the week is when I open that door when I get home from work and see you sitting over there, because that means I get to talk to you and I come give you a hug.
Aw, that was so sweet.
It's true, though. I'm always excited to see you.
It's like when I was a kid and I was most excited to eat dessert.
I don't know how these...
the most excited part of my day was when my mom got home from work and she had some ice cream. I'm kidding, that never happened. It makes me sound like the fattest kid ever.
Nothing wrong with eating ice cream. I don't know what's happening. We got off track all of a sudden.
I know.
But you were mentioning something about Toy Story 4.
Yeah, that we watched it.
Yeah, we did watch it. I thought it was very good. I mean, it's not surprising. Those movies, Pixar movies, are always pretty spot on. And brought me back to my childhood watching Toy Story 4. Of course, it has it's not that sad of an ending, but it has a sad-ish ending. So I thought it was a good send-off for the series. Who knows? There could be.
Are they done, or are they going to make more?
I have no idea. They could make a Toy Story 5 for all I know. It makes a good amount of money every time they release one, so I wouldn't be surprised if they have the right story to say anyway. Because I remember that was the reason they didn't actually release Incredibles 2 for the longest time, because they couldn't find the right story that they wanted to tell, apparently. So they waited 10 years and finally figured out what they wanted to say and then released or made a new one.
Wow, can you imagine at your work if it took you 10 years to figure something out?
Well, they were making other movies in the meantime.
I don't know. I'm sure there was some guy sitting in his little cubicle who was tasked with coming up with high-level story points, and he just never did. And then 10 years later, they were like, we still haven't released that movie. You are fired, dude! And then he packed up his stuff and left.
It's like all those people that get just lost in the shuffle of HR documentation and still get paid, even though they technically were supposed to be fired or let go or something.
That's funny.
I keep seeing stories about that on Reddit. And also this week, since it was 4th of July, they released on Netflix Stranger Things 3, which we were hyped about. Marta wanted to finish it all in one day, which seemed very, very ambitious.
Yeah, because there's 8 episodes, and they're about an hour each. The last one is 77 minutes, but the other 7 are all around an hour or less.
I guess we should give our just brief impressions for anybody that's
no spoilers. We won't say anything if you haven't seen it, but I liked it. Some sad parts, I guess. I don't know how to give my opinion without spoiling. I don't want to be like, well, beep did this, and then this person did that, So, I mean, it was good. I think they wrapped up the season nicely. I think that I read articles that they're going to have the producers, the Duffer Brothers, want a 4th. They planned it when they started to have 4 seasons. But I think the way that they wrap it up, a lot of the questions are answered.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, there's still open loose ends that they could branch off into the next season or into Stranger Things 4.
Yeah, because they planted the seeds towards the end that there's going to definitely be at least one more. And we came into this season knowing that because they mentioned it in one of those after-season discussions with the directors. And they mentioned that it was going to have 4 seasons. That's what they were shooting for anyway. Who knows? Netflix may, since this is like such a huge series for them, they may just want them to make even more or do like a spin-off or maybe just have them direct something different but kind of in the same vibe. I don't know. Yeah. I personally liked this season of it. I felt like, because didn't the past 2 seasons, wasn't it like 10 episodes long? Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess I'll look it up later. But it seemed like this, with 8 episodes, it actually went by pretty quick. Seemed like they hit the major plot points, because I remember last season they had this one episode that seemed just as a filler episode, kind of. I mean, it was important, sort of, to one of the main characters' story, Elle, and her development as a character, but it just seemed like it kind of took too long, and it could have been half an episode, so to speak. Just seemed like it was just kind of just out of nowhere it came from. If I hit the mic by accident. But I really enjoyed this. I think it had nice callbacks to the 80s. I saw people were really interested in all the fashion that they were showing off, because there was one, it's not really spoiler, but 2 of the main lady characters will go on like a shopping spree, and you see all the fashion that they're wearing in the 80s, and they do like photo shoots, and they look like Madonna, stuff like that. So a lot of people were nostalgic about all of that.
People that probably weren't even alive yet.
Yeah, or people actually that were born or lived through it, maybe. But I do like all the references and callbacks to old 80 movies that I think they definitely had a callback to, or try to pay homage to Arnold Schwarzenegger's role in the Terminator, because they had basically this one of the bad dudes in it kind of looked like him from the Terminator, and it kind of spoke like him, drove a motorcycle. I really enjoyed that. They just made a blatant, like, obvious, hey, this is a reference to this. But I enjoyed it. It felt like it went by really quick. I know you had some issues with, there's a lot of things going on at once, so it was kind of hard to keep track. I don't know if that was because we just kept go, and didn't have time to process everything that happened, to like branch it all together. But
I mean, there's like 3 or 4, maybe more different sets of characters that are they all have different plot lines that they're following. So sometimes when they're focusing on one group of characters for 10 minutes or so, and then they jump back into the action that they were showing 20 minutes earlier in the episode, sometimes it's just, I'm so focused on what was just happening. I'm like, what happened 20 minutes ago? I mean, it's not hard to follow, because I think they do a good job writing it and everything. It's not like they're jumping back and forth too much. It's an appropriate time spent on each scene and set of characters. But if I'm tired or I don't know, not 100% focused, it can be hard to follow along.
I think they do a good job though when it's like very suspenseful. If they do jump away from it, it's only because there's another suspenseful thing happening simultaneously. So they come back to the other scene, and they do a good job with that. But the one major thing that I like about Stranger Things, because they did it in the first, second, and third season, but I always enjoy how there's never like the main characters are never together throughout the whole season most of the time. It's always like the main characters are split up and they have branching arcs, like you mentioned, like branching storylines that just go in completely different directions, and then of course at the end they converge together and they all meet up. So like the last season, all the main characters met at the end of season, or the episode 7 I think, or 8, one towards the end, and the same thing happened here where they finally all came together. And I always like, for some reason I just like that they're all going to converge at the end and see each other. But yeah, anybody watch Stranger Things 1 and 2, I think we would recommend watching 3. I mean, what do you have to lose? It's a good show.
Something, I guess, more related to the actors and actresses themselves and the plot of the show. It's just funny because there's 6 kids, right? In the friend group.
Yeah, I think
Elle,
so.
the 4 boys, and the other girl.
Max.
Max, yeah. But, so the first season came out in 2016, so 3 years ago. And these kids are now, well, I just looked up. The girl that plays Elle, Millie Bobby Brown, is 15. So 3 years ago, assuming they're all 15 now, if they were 12,
they look like babies.
They looked so young, and now they just look so much older. And there's just different conversations that you can tell that they're more mature and older. And I'm like, I miss the little. They looked so young and little
when they did the flashback.
Season. Yeah, and then when they did flashbacks to the beginning,
like, oh my goodness.
But I think some of the actors, I noticed it more in the boys, but they look like they're still going through changes, because some of them, their legs just look so lanky. Like they're so tall, but they're not quite done growing yet.
Yeah, their torso is not built for the same length as their limbs.
Yeah, I guess, but it's funny to see the kids.
Yeah, they just look like they grow up so quick. I guess that's, I know another movie we actually watched was Shazam, and the main reason I was bringing it up is because the directors in the studio want to make another movie, and they realize because they use young actors, they have to go really quick. So because they're in their teenage years. So they get bigger within a year, and you can look somewhat different. And so they're kind of trying to hurry up with production to have another movie out, since Shazam did so well. If anybody knows what Shazam is, it's basically a story of like a kid gets powers passed on to him by a wizard, and he has to say Shazam, and then he becomes like an adult superhero. But I thought that was a funny movie too. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, but they're a little other thing out there. But I guess we'll get on to our topic this evening. This episode, evening. It's not evening. It's light out. Even though I thought it was just going to thunderstorm, and now it's bright as day. This weather confuses the crap out of me. You may hear hailstorm in the middle of this episode. I don't know anymore. I don't know. I can't guess. Oh, okay. So mainly this topic came from the fact that we decided to visit a library, and we kind of just have a pondering question of why we don't go to the library more often, because we realize that, I like books. Marta loves books, that's for sure. So why don't we go to it more often? And you used to go to the library all the time when you were younger, before high school, and we decided to go check out a library here, and we were pretty happy about it. Fun fact that I found while just Googling stuff in general, that apparently there's over 17,000 libraries in the U.S., and they basically pass around, roughly 2.5 billion materials. I guess that's considered books, magazines, everything that libraries offer, in just annually every year, which I think is pretty crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. But I want to get your impressions or your thoughts on libraries in general, because I know you were super excited to go and super happy that we went there. Ended up getting probably more books than we finished in 3 weeks, but
Well, I got less books than you, only
yeah,
because
I ended
a
up,
lot they didn't have in stock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to go to the library a lot as a kid. There was one, I don't know, 10 minutes from my house by car, maybe less. And I always liked it too because they would have different summer reading lists or like summer reading book clubs or something like that. So I'd always sign up and try to read as many books as possible. And then I think when I went to high school, because in high school I had to do a lot of reading, especially when I got into like honors English and AP English was just nonstop reading and essays, and we also had a huge summer reading list, so I never felt like I really wanted to read.
Because you're already probably drained from reading stuff you didn't actually really wanted to read.
Yeah, and then I guess high school, I feel like I had less free time than college, I guess in a different way, because I woke up early, went to school, then I had tennis practice or swimming, or that one semester where I did golf with my friend.
Oh, such a jock.
It was weird. Like, they didn't have enough people to have JV and varsity, so they just put all of us on the varsity team, and I was like, I've never played golf. I'm only here because my friend's here, and she hasn't really played golf ever either. So that was kind of funny.
But I heard playing golf in high school is actually nice because you get to just practice all the time on like nice courses.
I forget where we practiced. I think it was a legit like country club that they took us.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know.
Because the school you went to was pretty nice.
Yeah, it was nice. But anyway, my point was that after going to school and then sports practice and then getting home and eating dinner and doing homework, I either didn't have time or the last thing on my mind was like, oh, let me go read a book. It was like, let me go to bed because I'm tired. Or watch Monk, because we used to watch Monk a lot when I was growing up. But yeah, so I really liked going to libraries through middle school, and then high school was kind of a hiatus. And then in college, I didn't really read much for fun either because engineering.
Just that's all you need to say, just because engineering. But it's kind of true because you're always studying, always just focused on homework. Especially you, because you had just the homework would take hours.
Yeah.
We don't need to go down that dark rabbit hole.
It's funny though because so I studied chemical engineering, which a lot of people are like, oh, what is that? Doesn't really matter. We won't get into it too much. But I had to take engineering classes like thermodynamics, mechanics, whatever. And then I had to take a lot of really hard science classes like organic chem. 2 semesters of organic chemistry. So it's funny though because I was initially thinking, oh yeah, well at least, I'll have a few hard engineering classes and a few easier science classes to balance it out. But it ended up being that sometimes my organic chemistry lab homeworks took exceptionally longer than any of my engineering homeworks because the way they graded labs was ridiculous and they paid attention to the nitpickiest of things. So after all of that tediousness, the last thing I wanted to do was like, oh, let me go pick up a book.
Yeah, I remember you stating that when you had to do homeworks, you had to write it out really neat and nicely because that's just the way they wanted it.
Well, wouldn't most homeworks have to be submitted relatively neatly?
Not some of mine.
Oh.
I would just do the math and just circle the answer.
Yeah, I remember for organic chem, maybe one of the very first labs that we had to do was exclusively focused on significant figures. So, for example, like if you're adding the number 4.1 to 3.11111 or whatever, like they have a different 4.1 has 2 significant figures, the 4 and the 1. And then if you, for example, added those 2 numbers and you had the wrong number of sig figs, obviously it was more advanced than just addition, but that's a simple example. If you had the wrong significant figures, they took off like 50% of the points. If for your entire equation, if your math was right and everything was good, but because there was multiplying and dividing and adding this and subtract, like it was a complicated equation. And sometimes you would forget which figures or digits were significant, blah, blah, blah. But they would take off so many points. I was like, really? If I was in a lab for real, I would not be doing this by hand. I would have a computer, like at least an Excel sheet, or something that, would calculate it for me. It's just annoying. But anyway.
I'm sure you had to do a lot of those homeworks in a library. Am I right? Just go with it. It's
yeah,
sort of like a
actually,
segue.
no. I didn't like studying in libraries.
Really?
Yeah.
I always loved studying in libraries because it's quiet, and I didn't like doing it in my room because I felt like, or my dorm, because that didn't feel like a proper place to study.
Well, what about your apartment when you lived like sophomore or junior, senior year?
I still liked doing libraries more, going to libraries to study more because I was getting out of the apartment. I didn't have the distractions of, hey, your TV's here, or you're not actually at the library, so you don't need to study really that hard. But I always, when it came down crunch time, midterms, finals, I had to go to a library because that was, like to separate between studying, or separate my apartment between studying, which is where I needed to be at the library. That's just how I did things.
Yeah, it was different. Especially junior and senior year, I would do, you saw because we were dating then in college, but I would do my homework. Then group projects, I wouldn't mind meeting at the library because that's more fair than when 3 people live in one building on campus and I live off campus, and then they make me trek down there. Yeah. I'd rather just meet at a library. I
still don't get how you and Alan never got like any sort of like librarian coming over to tell you to shh. Because I remember sitting with you guys once.
What do you mean?
You guys were somewhat loud.
What library? What day? Specifics.
It was the chem library. I don't remember the exact name.
Chemical and nuclear engineering.
Was it that
library
one?
Or something?
It was the one in the engineering complex area.
Mm-hmm.
And you were on the top floor?
Oh, the floor where there's like the long tables.
Yeah. That one specifically.
See, that's why it's gonna sound terrible. That's why I don't associate libraries with studying, because a lot of times I would go with Alan or other friends and we would just have fun. So I'd be like, I don't really associate this with working hard. I associate this with
goofing off,
getting my work done, but at a very slow pace.
Yeah. Oh, but back to libraries. Do you want to? Oh, you have something to say? Go.
Yeah, I was going to continue.
Oh, sorry.
That also in libraries, at least the ones where on campus that I studied at, they never felt like a conducive. I don't really know what a good study environment for someone like me is, but I always felt so bored there. I was like, it's so stinky, and everyone just looks so mad, and can we just be a little happier?
Here's the thing. I'm confused why you rather study in your apartment than the library. The library is specifically meant for it to be quiet, and I know you, and you get distracted or annoyed at any type of sound when you're trying to focus. So I don't understand why you decided to stick with your apartment when there's a bunch of other college students. I guess.
I'm going to haul myself all the way to the library on campus. And then what do I do when I want to study after my classes and then it gets dark and late? I have to walk all the way back to my apartment in the dark by myself.
I did, but I know that's probably different.
Well, it's different for girls than guys a lot of times. I don't know. I'm done with college. Maybe forever, maybe not. Who knows? But
are you teasing something that I don't know?
No, I don't want to say I'm done forever and then in a few years be like, actually, I want to get a master's or PhD and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, studying is just one of those things that you have to figure out for yourself. But libraries are good for if you like silence and a study environment, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So if you're in college or about to go, you know who you are. Just find what works best for you, ladies. Maybe it's your dorm room with your crazy roommate, or maybe it's your dorm room with your awesomely nice roommate, or maybe it's the library, like Adam, like it is for Adam. Or maybe you're just so smart you never need to study because you remember everything. That's probably not you. Sorry. It's near impossible.
It's few and far between, but I knew somebody actually in aerospace engineering that had like a photographic memory, so you would not take notes and still just ace the exams. I was like, what is this madness? This seems very unfair.
That is unfair.
But I guess we'll go back to libraries in general. The main reason we went to this library is we wanted to check out books, and you had plenty of books you wanted to check out. I ended up walking away with 5 just because I got excited about all the book opportunities that were there. Book opportunities. All the books there. I think are book opportunities, Adam.
Good question.
And you actually went and just searched to see if they had some books that you were interested in, mainly traveling, I believe.
So, let me get a little bit into this. So, if you've been a loyal listener, first of all, thank you. Second of all, you might remember that I mentioned as one of my recommendations, which I've noticed, I think when I recommend stuff, it's never in a normal tone. I'm never like, yeah, I tried this new type of orange juice and I really like it. When I recommend something, it's...
You get the excitement level.
Crazy. I was going to say something that's not quite hot pod level appropriate, so I didn't say that phrase. But I'm, very excited about it. Go crazy, hyped up. This is what Adam's talking about. He wants to see the excitement. That's where the excitement comes, at the recommendation. That's where it is.
Oh, I'm making big eyes. You're getting excited right now just talking about it.
But anyway, my point was that one of my recommendations in a previous episode was a travel site, or a travel blog, I should say, called Earth Trekkers. And we can include that in the link for these show notes if you want to check it out. It's really awesome. This is a quick aside, but I just think it's worth it for another shout out. It's a family of 4, and they took off, I believe, 13 months, like a year and a month, as the full family of 4, and traveled the world. And they have it all blogged, and they talk about all their adventures and different itineraries and destinations. And it's a couple, and then their kids, I think, when they traveled were like 8 and 9 years old, or 8 and 10. So I don't know if I think they took them out of school and then they were a year behind or something. But anyway, I really like this blog. But also on their site, they have a blog article, or a blog post that's called 12 Great Travel Books to Feed Your Wanderlust. And if you know me, I like to travel and I like to research and learn about different places. And
that she does, folks. I can attest.
Yes. And so I wanted to kind of try a different genre, because I feel like I either read very popular fiction, like the books that are all over the internet or Amazon or whatever, and I just pick those, or self-help books that are also well-known. So I kind of wanted to branch out, and I thought travel books would be great because I could read and also feed my wanderlust, as the blog says. So anyway, in the library, I was scrolling through this, and I'm searching in the computers they have there to see if they had the books, and if they did, if they were in stock, and if they were in stock, where the heck were they? Which reminds me, kind of funny. So I took pictures of the computer so that all of the books and then the little codes of where the book was located was on my phone. While Adam was roaming through one of the little aisles.
Yeah, you all of a sudden text me where I am, and I didn't leave the one aisle that I
I
originally walked down.
You walked away, and then I was sitting at the computer for, 10 minutes, and I was like, I wonder where I went. And then I realized after I texted you, wait, I'm the one that walked away.
I just stayed in that same aisle that I originally walked down.
Haha, funny. But so I have all of these books. There were 12. I don't think the library had all of them. I think they had maybe 9 or 10 out of the 12. So I had all my notes and pictures on my phone, ready to go find the books. Go to look for one. It's not there. I'm like, okay, bad luck. Go to see the next one. It's not there. I'm like, dude, the number is the number. I'm following. The numbers are numerical order.
Numbers do not lie.
Numbers don't lie. If it's number 927.85, and here next to it is 926, and after is 928, 927's right in the middle. First 2 aren't there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really annoying. And at this point, I'm thinking there's like some sort of little
conspiracy?
Little dwarfs in the library running around, taking books and putting them in different places. That's what went through my head. I was really mad in that moment. I didn't tell you that, but I was like, there must be someone just moving all the books. But there wasn't. I guess I can't prove that. But I realized...
Can't prove that there was no dwarves running around moving books? That you can't prove.
I can't prove that there were. I can't prove that there weren't.
So just all the hot listeners decide for yourself.
You make the conclusion. Make the conclusion that makes the most sense for you. You know what it is. You know the right thing. Anyway. So then I think we went upstairs because those first 2 books were downstairs in the nonfiction. Yeah. And then the few more were in the fiction. And I couldn't find another one. And I was like, what is going on? They all said available. And then when I showed you the screenshot, or no, we pulled it up on a different computer. And it said available for under one of the books. It said available at this location. And I realized, oh no, that means that the other books, they just said available. They didn't say available at this location. So that means that they weren't actually available at the library where we were at. So I learned that the hard way, that just because it says available, it doesn't mean it's where the book is where I am at that time.
But you did find 3 books.
So then I found 3 out of the whole bunch that I looked at, which is probably good because then... Should I just tell my other funny story now
while
I'm rambling? Okay. So then...
It's not rambling. You have a point. Or you're just explaining a story.
That's true. But anyway, my next point is kind of jumping ahead, but it's another funny story-ish. So when we got our library books, we also... the front desk person... I don't know what they're called at a library.
Librarians?
Yeah. Wow. But the librarian was telling us that nowadays they have all these apps where you can rent ebooks and audiobooks. And anyway, so this morning I was making an account on I was downloading the 3 apps and looking through them.
Do you want to explain what the apps are since we're already going into this
Sure.
related to your story?
So there's 3 apps. One's called Libby, which I think is connected to your library.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 2 apps one called Overdrive and one called Hoopla.
I just like the name Hoopla.
And Overdrive you can connect to your Kindle if you have a Kindle. So on both Overdrive and Hoopla it says you can rent audiobooks and ebooks. So an ebook is just a Kindle book or an electronic version of the book. So I go on, except I was a little confused because, and I didn't look into it, so maybe I'm missing something, but it seemed like on Hoopla you couldn't directly download the ebooks to Kindle.
Because they don't have that functionality yet. I remember looking into it.
So I'm confused why I would use Hoopla then if Overdrive seems to be the same thing and it does connect with Kindle.
Maybe Hoopla has different books available to download. But right now for specifically Hoopla, I saw that it only worked for the Kindle Fire tablet. But they're working to get the Kindle. But yeah, it makes sense if we have Kindles to just use Overdrive.
Yeah. So anyway, I downloaded the apps this morning and then I was all annoyed about the Hoopla thing. I was in a whole hoopla about it.
But
I was a little annoyed. I was like, only the Kindle Fire tablet? I don't have that. So what am I supposed to do? So anyway, went to Overdrive and then I realized that is compatible with Kindle. What do we have? Paperwhite? Kindle Paperwhite? Yeah. Or whatever the normal version is. So then I was looking through some of the books that I wanted to read but weren't in the library. And there were a bunch that were unavailable, but you can put it on hold. And then once the digital copy that someone else is reading, once they return it, then it goes down the line of the hold list. So I put a hold on, I don't know, 4 or 5,
just
6
went on
books.
Like a library book shopping spree.
Yeah, I was like, because they all when they're on hold, they say available, and then next to that they say the availability, and all my books said available soon. I was like, well, soon could mean a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm not the next person in line. So I put all these holds in the morning, like literally 5 hours ago, and then Adam and I go outside for a little while. Come back inside like 2 hours later, check my email. I got one email that I'm already off the hold list, or off the list for a hold, and the book's out rented to be mine. I was like, oh, a few hours later, okay, that was fast. literally less than an hour later, a second email. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just checked out 3 books from the library yesterday, and now I just put 5 more holds, and 2 of them I already have. So
the funny thing is, you said available. You thought that available soon meant like a week or so.
Yeah, and it meant like the same day, potentially.
Yeah, except for the books that I put on hold in there. The 2 books, I saw that there was already, for one book, there was only 3 copies, and there was 95 people ahead of me, so it states that it'll be available in 6 weeks, and the other one was, I don't know the exact amount, but apparently that one's available in 11 weeks. So I got a little ways before I can read those, so I got a nice cushion to finish my other books that I got at the library.
Yeah.
Go.
I was just going to say, when we were talking about, when you asked the question at the beginning, why we don't go to libraries more often, I think it was last week that I brought up to you. I don't know if it was as part of a conversation or if I just brought it up randomly, but I was mentioning that when we used to live in Maryland, that makes it sound like it was so long ago, literally last year.
Funny enough, we were flying out around this. No, we're flying back to Maryland around this time, right?
Last year, over July 4th, we came apartment hunting. But I mentioned about a week ago that when we lived in Maryland, we went to a public library, and we didn't really go there much, or I don't know if we checked anything.
It didn't have a great selection from what I remember.
Yeah.
It was a little and it wasn't organized that great.
The one we just went to near our apartment it looks really new and well organized. But I was just thinking how I miss going to the library, and I'm pretty tired of paying for books because, I don't know, books nowadays are $10 to $20, if not more, depending on what kind of book, if you get it on Kindle, paperback, whatever.
Yeah, and I always thought the point of Kindle was that it's supposed to be cheaper, but I see nowadays that sometimes
it's not.
Sometimes paperback or hardcover are cheaper than the Kindle version.
Which doesn't make any sense. Kindle is a digital version.
Yeah.
You're paying for, obviously, the rights to the book, but you're not paying for, not that it costs $20 to manufacture a book, but it costs something.
Yeah, because they have to make a profit off of it.
So it's just annoying when...
Yeah, and I think it comes down to nowadays people just like to purchase books. I mean, I love to purchase books, and I wonder if it's kind of just like a status symbol, because I remember watching... It was either watching the Minimalist documentary or you mentioning in the Minimalist podcast or something about how a lot of times people purchase things, and books being one of them, where it's kind of like a status symbol. Like if you walk into somebody's library in their house and you see their bookshelves and they're just filled with books, it gives off the impression, this guy or gal is very well versed in a lot of books and well read. But that cannot always be the case, because you look at our bookshelves and there's a bunch of them. I can guarantee you we haven't read half of them yet, and we still have plenty more to go. Yeah,
that's true.
And going to this library, it makes me want to go back, because there was plenty of books that I saw that I want to get, but I already had my handful with 5 books, so I couldn't put any more to go. But it just makes me think, it's like, if your main goal of reading books, which is mine, is to learn more and just have an enjoyable experience, why do you actually need to have the physical copy of the book, unless you plan on reading it multiple times and when you have it? I understand that, but you can also recheck out the book in the library if the library around you has it. And I just think maybe it's just I personally got caught up in just the idea of having all these books and just having this material thing, instead of just realizing, hey, there's this great thing called a library that you could go and just get books for free because it's amazing, and you just have to return them. You can read it as much as you want, and just if they don't have it, you can always request it, or now because of technology, you can get it on ebook. And I just feel like I just never really thought about it until we finally went, and I sort of pondered on it a little bit more, and I kind of felt a little bad for purchasing books, even though I don't think we go crazy with purchasing books, but...
We don't, but it adds up.
Yeah, over time it does eventually add up. And I personally, maybe I was thinking, we have some books that we've already finished. Is maybe we should be kind and donate them to the public library for other people to consume them and learn and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you?
Good idea.
Do you have any thoughts on what I said?
I agree with the whole. Why do you need them if the whole point is to learn?
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know. The whole thing about having a lot of books as a status symbol or keeping them in case you read them again. I forget where I was reading this. Probably in one of the books on the shelf, to be honest. But it was saying that a lot of people keep books because they think, oh, I'll read it again. But in the book or article that I was reading, it was saying, how many times do you actually go back and reread that book? Because you're constantly either buying more or you already have way more on your bookshelf than you're going to read.
And maybe that's why it would be beneficial if you read it at the library and really enjoy it. You only purchase the few that you really enjoy. So if you want to go back, it's not like you have a large bookshelf of stuff that you haven't read yet. So you don't feel guilty.
Yeah. And it all goes back to the whole materialism thing. Like, is this item actually bringing you value, bringing you happiness? Because I do like having a bookshelf and I like having books. But if I were to Marie Kondo those books and like pick up each book individually and ask myself, if you're not familiar, that's the Marie Kondo method or the KonMari method is. It's decluttering by picking up individual items and saying, like, does this bring me happiness? And I think the answer for most books for me would be no, because one book does not bring me happiness. It's the experience of reading it.
Yeah.
But the physical item, I've already read the book. I've already gotten the knowledge. The actual material item doesn't bring me the happiness that the reading experience does.
And I think maybe people would like to purchase a bunch of books just mainly because they like to, I don't know, they don't go back to previous books like you mentioned because they like continuously checking off that new, oh, I just read this book. It's kind of like a checklist of like constantly checking off new books that you read, so you never really go back and reread something that you've already read because you've sort of read it before, so you don't feel the necessary urge to go read it, and it's already quote-unquote checked off of your reading list, so what's the point of going back?
Yeah, although I find myself feeling guilty saying all this stuff now because I have, for a few years, been buying books, either ebooks or paperback, and I do like you said, that you like buying books because you just like having them. I do too. But then another part of me is like, I would rather, instead of buying a book for $15 that I'm going to read once, I would rather get it from the library because A, it's cheaper, and B, it's also more sustainable because I use it, I return it, and someone else uses it versus I buy it, use it once, and then stare at it on a shelf for 5 years before I move and then get rid of it.
And theoretically, if you really want to read it again, you could always just check it out at the library.
And the library we went to, I'm sorry for harping on this, but a lot of the recent books that I want to read and the popular books, they have. Because I think we were just talking about this, how in the library in Maryland, it felt like they just didn't have a very recent selection. But this one, I was very impressed.
Yeah. I guess all libraries can be a little different, just depending on where you go. I think we found a pretty good one. And I'm happy to go back more, and I kind of want to donate some of our books.
It better be books you've already finished.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, good.
Goodness, don't give me the wide eye. It scared me. I'll never donate stuff that you haven't finished yet.
No, I said that you haven't finished yet.
Or that I haven't finished yet.
Yeah, good. It's not like I've ever donated clothes or anything that I've never worn before. That's preposterous. You should always use something before you just get rid of it.
And also,
just kidding.
I wanted to piggyback off of you mentioning that we are sort of talking about we're just discussing how we are saying that maybe we shouldn't want to purchase books even though we do like it. And I guess the point of this podcast is admitting that we're not like really perfect. No one really is. And it's kind of just the whole point of the podcast is just discussing our thoughts and sort of getting them out there and see if anybody feels the same way. And hoping that we can stick true to what we mentioned and try to do the best that we can. I mean, that's all we can really do, right?
I agree.
And then now going back to the library in general, I didn't realize this, but apparently libraries have more benefits than just books nowadays. I always just assume libraries have books, but I mean, I've always knew they had DVDs, but this one had just a whole large swath of movies, movie section, which was a little surprising because I always remember that some libraries just had a tiny section of DVDs, but now there's a lot more, maybe because people stream more movies, so they just want to get everything out of their house and donate. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I saw that this one specifically has community events. I'm sure a lot of other libraries do. I saw they had Bad Movie Night, which apparently is on Tuesday, funny enough. Maybe I'll go, since you're going to be away, and I'm going to be all alone.
Aww.
Yeah. But they also have, of course, book clubs. That reminds me of what happened at the book club for one of the books that you searched, and I thought it was pretty hilarious.
I forgot about that.
Do you want to tell the story since it is your story?
I thought it was funny. So one of the books I was looking for, when I screenshotted the information about it, it said, and I'm looking at my phone right now, so this is exactly what it said. As far as where it was, it said Book Club Kit 2014, Book Club to go, and then a number, and I was like, that's weird, because usually it either just says the author or just the number if it's a nonfiction book. And I was like, book club kit? I don't know. And
what the heck is that?
There was another one that said the book club kit thing. And then I finally, upstairs, there was a book club kit area. I was like, oh, there's the book club books. And I just thought it meant these are the books that someone recommends from their own book club for people to read. So I walk over, and there's these like tan colored bags,
duffel bags,
like tote bags, and they're closed, they're just on the shelf, and I was like, that's weird. So I kind of peeked over, and I was trying to kind of figure out what was going on. I didn't see the book on the shelf. I didn't see the title of the book anywhere near those canvas bags, those tote bags. So I was just thinking, I don't know. So then I told you, or you went downstairs to look for another book, and then you came up.
No, I went downstairs to look for your book because I thought I saw a section that was related to book club, but it was just, I forget, it was like some other community thing that they had, a different section. And then I ended up deciding to ask one of the librarians there exactly what exactly is this book club kit? And she she mentioned that, oh yeah, the kits are just like a take-home thing where the books that are mentioned, they come in this bag, and you get 10 copies to distribute out and start your own book club.
So those canvas bags were 10 copies of that book. And part of me was like, would it be wrong to take the whole bag
and just
read one and leave the other 9?
A little excessive.
It's a little screwed up, because what if someone actually wants a book club and I'm over here just taking 10 books for no reason? But that was a funny learning experience. First, I learned that if it doesn't say available at this location, that means it's not here. Then I learned this. I was like, wow, if anyone was watching me in the library, they probably thought I was lost, because the amount of times I walked back and forth and up and down the stairs was ridiculous.
Any more ideas or things you want to mention about libraries in general?
Just that if people like to read, I recommend it. If you don't like to read, then I'm not gonna say recommend it, because
that does remind me of one of my stories finally from the library, because all the funny stories normally are from you, because you're just a funny person and you're good at telling stories. But I thought it was funny. I remember when we first walked in, and we were just exploring everything on the first floor, which was mainly fiction. And I remember walking to the teen fiction area, and I looked over, and I saw 3 little kids just sitting. I was like, oh, that's very nice that there's young kids that are enjoying the library. The young generation is getting their learning on and reading books. Then I continue farther around the corner. I see they're on one of the library, or all 3 of them are on different library computers playing Fortnite. Great. I guess that's what they're doing. They're just come to the library, play Fortnite. I guess to each his own nowadays. And I just thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, goodness, what is wrong with this next generation? I sound like an old whippersnapper. Old fart.
A whippersnapper?
Isn't that? No, that's what like old people say to young people. They say young whippersnapper, right? I don't know. What am I? I'm only 25. What do I know?
I don't know, but you're starting to sound kind of old.
Dang. Ouch.
When you use expressions that you say, you literally say, I sound like an old person. Why are you saying ouch? You put those words.
I literally insulted myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I guess we'll wrap it up. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Remember, this podcast, episode 41, releases on Tuesdays. You'll be hearing it on Tuesdays, shockingly enough. Every Tuesday, now that we got this habit rolling. 2 weeks now in a row. I'm pretty happy. Episode 41. It's exciting. You can find our podcast basically everywhere, anywhere you find podcasts normally. So please share us with your friends and family. You can find our Facebook page, Twitter handle, our website where all the podcasts are stored and everything if you want to go back farther. Yeah, it's going to be all in the description below. You can email us hotpod@gmail.com if you have any thoughts from our episode or just any questions you want to ask us or any topics you would like us to discuss. We would always be happy. Remember, check out Marta's blog, martamuses.com. I'm going to put that in the description notes as well. I got to remember. And you can check out our Instagram handles as well. All in the description. The magical description. Check it out. It's glorious. Anything to say before we wrap?
Nope.
Completely? Okay. I guess it's time to say bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.